Please welcome Director of Engineering, Digital Analytics Platform, IBM Corporation, Lalitha Krishnamoorthy.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. And I'm super excited to be here today to share with you a couple of perspectives. The first one is really around the criticality of having a data strategy. I know several of you in the room are going through a digital transformation. And this is really about sharing some perspective about how important your overall data strategy is to have a successful transformation. And as big as IBM is, you know, with about short of 500,000 people across the globe, we've been going through our own digital journey for the last few years. And I'm hoping in the 20-some minutes that we have that we're going to spend together, I'm going to share some findings, some heartaches that we've gone through as we've gone through this transformation, and some of our learnings and some tips that will perhaps help you accelerate wherever you are in this journey towards your digital transformation. So let's get started. So it has only just begun. What do I mean by that? So I'm going to use a real life, an example, an experience that I had with some clients. And hopefully that puts some perspective around what we're going to cover for the next 20 minutes or so. So I was with one of our insurance clients, a pretty large insurance client actually in North America. And this was in the first quarter where, you know, most businesses are focused around their planning, right? They're talking about strategy, roadmap, and all of those fun discussions to figure out where they're headed for the rest of the year. And so this was with their CTO, their CIO, CDO, all the C acronyms. And so they spent a lot of time taking us through their overall business and go-to-market strategy. And we spent a lot of time on their product roadmap and strategy and their offerings, and that they're going to either divest or they're going to double down on, right? And they came with that. And then they said, well, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think we're on the right path? Are we, you know, kind of doing things exactly or similar to what you guys are trying to do? And we paused, and I said, where's your data strategy? And they were crickets. They were quiet. Because then they said, it's all weaved into all of this stuff, you know? I mean, data is part of everything, so it's all part of this. And then after a couple more conversations, they actually came back and said, you know what? We're actually going to go and draw out this data strategy that's going to be this foundational layer on which we're going to base our business models and make these decisions. It's going to be data-driven decision-making, in a sense. Now, that was an aha moment to the client and to me for two reasons, right? The aha moment to them was really about the fact that they just realized that they were missing this such a critical third dimension of their entire business model, which was the data strategy. Because in order to power your business and go-to-market strategy, and to have a successful offering roadmap and a product strategy, it's got to be data-driven at the end of the day for you to have cognitive insights, and you're actually making decisions based on real-life data, because at the end of the day, let's be clear, data doesn't lie. The aha moment to me was how many of our clients are actually on this same path and having this exact same challenge around how to define their overall data challenge and address the data challenge in this digital path that they're on. So with that, you know, it was pretty clear that there is an overall, you know, several of the clients are in different positions as they come to digital transformation and their digital journey, but that we have all only just begun. It's not that someone's already crossed this path or figured out how to do this. We're all learning as we go. So hence the name for the title is It Has Only Just Begun, because we're all kind of on the same path for now. So let's talk about this digital tsunami, right? I mean, why is this data challenge such a big deal? Why is data strategy such a big deal? Why is it so fundamental to how we're going to transform our businesses to be relevant in the future, right, in the next 5 to 10 years? So in order to give you an industry-wide perspective, right, I want to give you some data points that show not just what we've learned at IBM, but kind of across the board what we've noticed from an industry disruption perspective. The first data point is we did actually do our own finding as to what is causing this tsunami and what is the overall message that we're getting from the field and from the industry trend. And then the data point is that 55% of global executives, they feel that the traditional value-based value chains are actually being replaced. So a lot of the existing businesses that were based on, value chain proposition, et cetera, are actually starting to disappear. The second data point, which is very interesting, and which is something that I've seen a lot of clients actually take and really internalize and apply to their organizations, is that 53% of global execs, we feel that the boundaries between industries and the lines between these industries are blurring. There was a time when at IBM we would have a vertical called software business, we had a systems group, we had a research group, we had et cetera, services group. But what we've seen in the past few years is that what clients are actually buying is actually products and services combined together. It's more of a subscription model mindset. It's not really about, I want to buy this product and I'm going to use this offering of yours for the next 5 years, and with just some incremental additions and bug fixes. So this transformation that we're seeing is this lines between and across these boundaries are actually starting to blur even more. And finally, we've caught on to the fact that about almost 70%, I would say 69% of CEOs, they're starting to realize that ecosystem play is actually the one that's actually happening. What we've noticed across the board is this, I don't know how many of you are from North America, but this Las Vegas style of winner takes everything home, it just doesn't exist. It doesn't fly in this millennial time that we are in right now. We've noticed a lot of co-creation, and ecosystem play is really on top notch right now. So that's the other message that we've learned, is that the most impactful business trend is about co-creation, collaboration, and a lot more of ecosystem and supporting each other as we build out our business models to face the disruption. So that gives you kind of a perspective of what we call this digital tsunami from an industry disruption perspective. Let me share something that we've done. So we took the industry data points, right? And we said, okay, what constitutes this digital tsunami? I mean, can we do some pattern matching algorithm to kind of figure out what are some of these basic things that's causing this disruption and causing so much of noise in the field that's making it difficult for our sellers to do their job, for the marketers to do their job, and how do they all kind of reinvent themselves or transform themselves so that they're actually relevant when it comes to digital marketing, right? Performance marketing. So there's actually 4 patterns. Interestingly, we were able to get to 4 patterns. The first pattern is about orchestration. This is what I was hitting on earlier, where I said, what we're noticing is there is a redefined client experience. Customers are not looking for a product that they signed for 3 to 5 years of, enterprise license agreement. I think most of you know that term, ELA. They're actually looking for coming together of services and products in an orchestrated way. So all they have to do is basically go and use the product or the offering, the functionality, or even at a capability level, be able to utilize that, subscribe to that, and at any point in time be able to say, you know what, I don't like your product, I'm done with it. I want to move on to something else with no strings attached. The whole mindset of how clients are looking and consuming our offerings was this orchestrated move. The second thing we've noticed is this symbiotic relationship. This is what I was alluding to earlier about this ecosystem play, which is very strong because what we're noticing is new business models are getting created based on new ways of value creation. It's no longer true that in this digital, as we're going through this journey, we notice it's no longer true that the business model that we just defined 3 months ago is still relevant. It's starting to fade as things shift, because things are shifting. I think a couple folks who spoke before me talked about the volume of data, the velocity of data, the veracity of data, and this unstructured and structured data, and the impact that it's having across, how do you manage that data, right? So that's where this symbiotic relationship is strongly in play. That's the pattern that we identified. The third thing we identified is this new expertise. It's really capabilities built through a structure of openness. And I mean open source, I mean openness in sense of co-creation, partnering with our partners, partnering with our clients to close the gap, to close that bridge. because that's where we've noticed we make the most amount of impact, and with the agility that we need to make these impacts, and then to have that level of expertise that you find in these different pockets of development, which we don't necessarily all can be grown organically at home. And then the final pattern that we noticed is really about new ways of working. This is about digitizing your operations so that you're actually having operational efficiency in terms of your processes, and most importantly, it's all centered around the client experience. So 4 patterns from this digital tsunami, that was our learning from as I'm going through the IBM findings, like I said, that said, these are the 4 things. If we kind of keep our eyes on these 4 patterns that's actually disrupting this entire industry, then we will get to a model and a strategy for how you're going to align and keep your data together and build out a data strategy, which would be the foundation for how you can transform yourself. So, the digital data challenge. So now that the tsunami is understood, the patterns are understood, right, the dominating 4 patterns, we said, okay, what is exactly about the data challenge? How is that impacting all of that? What does it do to the data itself? And here's, again, an industry standpoint, right? And this gives you kind of 2 perspectives. One is our journey. The other I want to share with you is what's happening in the field. What did we notice? Because there's always much to learn from when you look at what's happening industry-wide. So we looked at the top Fortune 500,000 companies and said, okay, let's figure out what these guys are doing well and kind of bucketize them across 3 buckets and figure out where the leader pack is and where the rest of the companies fall. Interesting data point and learning for us. The first thing we noticed was there was a bucket of about 29%, a third of that population, fell in the leader bucket. These are companies that are out there way ahead, right? It doesn't matter, small, big, but these are companies that were way ahead that successfully were innovating using big data and analytics. They had infusion of AI, machine learning into their capabilities, into their client data. They were leading the pack here in terms of where they were with their digital transformation and actually making profitable revenues, right? The second set of companies, we put them in the strivers bucket. These are companies that are in the process, about 30% or so, that were in that bucket, where they were striving to develop innovation, adopt these new technologies around AI, and try to figure out how they can become successful and adopt these as quickly as possible, right? These are the strivers bucket. And then finally, there is a strugglers bucket. We noticed about 40-some% of the population of these big companies, right, are in this bucket where they're struggling to support innovation, they're struggling to adopt these technologies. You know, they have a very clear sight of where they want to go, what market share they want to gain, but they really are not able to figure out how they adopt these new technologies to enable them to move faster. Okay? So this is an industry view of where we saw these different companies and stack rank them from that perspective. So the real challenge, right? Let's talk about the heart of what are those things we want to solve for. So we looked at the industry trend again, and then we brought it closer to home and said, what are the 4 things that we need to fix so that the data challenge in itself can be defined? Because data is just unlimited right now. And you can't chase every ball that's been thrown at you. We needed to have a very clear focus and clarity around what is it we're solving for, and what is bang for the buck, if you will. So we basically came down with 4 things and we incorporated a lot of our client hearings and briefings, because this is not just our speak, but kind of hearing from around the world, looking at the industry trends, right? It boils down to 4 things that each of us here, perhaps in the room, is also facing the exact same challenge, I'm pretty sure. Of the 4 of them, the first thing was really about automating your business processes and process. This was one of the toughest ones, believe it or not. It wasn't automating your technology stack or your code or your functions. It was really about how do I automate my business processes, whether it is corporate marketing, whether it is corporate or digital sales, right? Or sales enablement, marketing enablement, some of these collateral that is so close to our clients to close business. How do we automate some of those processes so that we can get ahead of the game? We can gain time on this. So that was one. The second thing is insights from data. This clearly came out as a data challenge. We collect a lot of data for various different reasons. But the question really on the table was, how do I get real-time insights from this data? It should not be a post-facto thing where, okay, my sales are down, I didn't meet my quota, blah, blah, blah happened, so I'm going to know, how am I going to get better at it, right? It wasn't that. It's part of the culture. It's really got to be a data-driven business truly to the matter that data is actually driving and helping you make decisions, real time. This is not about, okay, a week after I'm going to look at my report, right? So this was a very strong data challenge that came to us, especially on the analytics, digital analytics platform side of the house where I sit in the team. This was a very important ask, is how do we have real-time insights across the board and build that into our organization's DNA? The third thing is something that we all struggle with, is really about increasing client engagement. How do we get these clients to engage? Is it the visits? Is it the click? How do you know that they're in a point in time in the digital funnel where they're getting ready to get converted? How do you measure these conversions? Are these conversions happening in a way that's meaningful? Are these white space clients people that we're actually tackling and understanding what their usage pattern is? Do we keep track of what they're doing within the application for your trials? There were several questions around increasing engagement, but that, again, is a data challenge. It's something that we have the data, but we haven't created the insights and tied it together so that we're in a position to actually enable and say, let's go do this quarter. Let's change the game. Let's go do that this quarter, right? And make these data-driven decisions. And finally, I think you guys in this audience in Europe know better about GDPR than anybody else. So definitely, I know you guys know more about it. It's about managing the data risk. Along with this volume of data that we collect for all different purposes, like I said earlier, it's really about managing that risk, because that risk can be pretty hefty for a lot of companies, right? And trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing, the due diligence that's needed so that we are all compliant with these policies and et cetera, especially when it comes to healthcare and stuff like that. So 4 challenges, right? And 4 things that we said we were going to focus on in order to kind of really get to the heart of this digital tsunami and the data challenge that I talked about. So then we kind of got into the solution mode. Okay, we understand the parameters, we got the problem, right? What is the value creation, the data value creation? What does it actually do for you? If I've got to go and redo my entire business model, redo my entire game plan, and only because I'm trying to have more value, let's kind of put it down and say, how does this really come over as a data value creation? And what I mean by that is this. This is what we arrived at, okay? And really, this is a tip for you to kind of think through, if you were to walk away and say, I want a data value creation system for my organization, and it's going to be based on a couple of things that are really important and key for you to drive that outcome, the business outcome that you're after. There's really 3 things. The first and foremost is promoting excellent data quality and accessibility. I talked a lot about data challenge, managing your data, getting insights from data, but the foundation, if you just were to take a step back on that one, right? What is it about? Can I trust this data at the end of the day, right? Is that data quality good enough? Because again, if you're going to trigger your entire business strategy, like I talked about earlier, your go-to-market strategy, your sales strategy, and your offering roadmap, and making all these tuning and changes based on data, that data better be good, right? So focusing and promoting that excellent data quality and accessibility about how you do that is extremely critical. The second thing is making analytics and innovation a part of every role. This is what I mentioned. I've seen a lot of clients with business teams, and then they have their engineering teams. Then they have their data collection teams. So those guys just capture the data. They have like a data platform that has data on it, right? And then there is this analytics team, which sits on the side, which is, okay, you want me to process the data? You want me to make the data virtual and then do virtualization and show you these reports? I can do that. And then the business is disconnected. They have some data analysts who are looking at the data to make decisions. The key here, and this is a big learn for us, has been to bring these 3 different players together on one stage, in one room, and this was not possible overnight. Like I said, with 500,000 population to drag with us, it was definitely not easy, but it's something that we've managed to get to a certain point of optimization where we actually have the right representation from the business, thinking at it from a solving problem, and from the analytics side. But really making analytics and innovation a part of every role in your organization is key to this success. And finally, the third thing is building a quantitative innovation culture. There is still thoughts and people that think they can drive the business the way it was before. And this is a cultural mind shift. I'll speak about it in a couple more minutes in my slides. This is a culture thing. It's really about changing your mind shift, right? Changing how you think to say, no, this is really a data-driven business, and having this really become the culture across your organization. Because no one person or two people in the organization can make such a big transformation happen if we all don't think along the lines of, I'm going to make decisions based on data. You don't bring data to me and you give me a bunch of charts, I'm not going to decide anything. And that's kind of a cultural shift in thinking, right, that we've had to train ourselves, because we're so used to seeing PowerPoints being presented, and people talk about, hey, I want to go this, I'm going to land on the moon, I'm going to go this. Okay, great. How are you going to do it? Okay, I got to come back. And then now show me the data to back up what you're going to do. So it's a matter of cultural transition. It's that building that quantitative innovation culture across your organization. So again, 3 things that we did as part of creating a data value creation model to help us get there. Now I'll speak a little bit about the final reveal, which is our data reinvention model. This is really what helped us kind of focus on every single aspect of what it's going to take for us to take us towards that digital transformation journey. And again, that can be anything for each of you, right? It varies depending upon your industry, depending upon the compliance rules and regulations that apply to you. It depends upon, what it is that your outcome is that you're chasing. But this model is pretty generic and can be fine-tuned by each of you here based on where it is you're headed and where you are in the journey as well, right? So what is this? The core of this, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this just to make sure you catch some of the key things here. The core of this is really around that experience, that circle in the center. This is about creating exceptional experiences for the client. Like I said, it's basically clients only vote with their wallet. And this is centered around that client-centric thinking and experience mindset. So the core is really around building that exceptional experience for our clients. And how do we do that? The first is capitalize on your organization's talent. In order to face the transformation, just the existing skills and the job roles and the skill sets that people have had for the past X number of years is not going to do it. This is a big lesson for us as we reinvented ourselves to face this digital storm and tsunami. It's really about upping the organization's talent and skill set, investing in your client, in your own employees, in your own teams, so that they have that level of talent to think about that second level of thinking that they say, to really have that skill set and investing in them, so that they actually understand what's happening in the industry. How is this going to impact their jobs 5-10 years from now? So the first fundamental thing that we addressed is going to, I don't know, some IBMers here I know are in the group, but it's basically upping how we do your learning. We actually took an active step to educating people on how do you get to journey to cloud? What does being on the cloud actually mean? And how do you get your data there? How fast can you retrieve it? How do you understand data so that you build that culture of continuous innovation? The second thing that we did is orchestrate ecosystems to drive expertise. I hit on this point a couple times before, and a big shout out to the Telium team here, because the reason I'm here today is because Telium's a great partner to IBM with their tag management, metadata governance. We use them as our solution for that. And on the other side, they're actually one of our IBM clients as well, which I'm pleased to inform. So that is ecosystem playing right here in this room, right? Think about it. A client and a business partner together, accelerating how we get to our digital goals. So this ecosystem play, like I mentioned earlier, is about co-creation, is about bridging that gap, closing that gap, where we know we're going to take another 5-10 years to actually go and build out that functionality. But if that functionality is available in an ecosystem partner, you double down on it, leverage it, integrate with it, and you keep moving on that journey. It's really very similar to how we all do agile development, right? Iterative development. The next point here is about gaining more wisdom from your data. And I think I've spoken enough about having a data-driven business and not making decisions based on charts and Excels, right? It has to be real-time data that's coming in, that's telling me what I need to be knowing about and thinking about. Tame processes, services, and waste. This is another most important thing where you need to really think about how you're going to get your business process automated, understanding of those services, and what are you wasting as technical debt, right? and focus on fresh thinking. I hit on this earlier as well. It's this innovative thinking. It's thinking differently about the problem and kind of bringing all partners in, whether it's in the business side, the engineering side, the data side, right? Kind of bringing that convergence point and making that enable that and enabling everybody to make that data decision. And finally, continuously refine your strategy and execute the plan, right? This is not about I set my strategy and that's it. It doesn't work like that in this climate anymore. It's constant evolution that's happening. So with that, there's the digital data mind shift that I talked about earlier. Like there is a cultural element to this, a mind shift, a very different way of thinking that's associated with digital transformation and how you prepare for the data strategy. And what I mean by that is basically this. It really comes down to that experience that I talked about, that exceptional client experience, right, that we're trying to provide to our clients and our partners. And that comes with these three things. The focus on the problem itself. What is that experience that you're trying to define in the journey for your seller, for your client, right, for your business partner? It comes with that expertise, like I said, the skills that's needed today. Like I was telling somebody, putting data science on your resume today is like putting Java on your resume 5 years ago. Everybody is data scientists today. It's just become the nature of our job. So the way you think about expertise and upping your talent and your skills is extremely critical for you to be successful in getting past this digital transformation. And finally, the agility, the resilience that you need so that you're actually able to be continuously changing the way you think, the way you do things, and the way you repeat them, right? So that's what this is about. Finally, I have 3 tips for you in conclusion. So for you to take away and actually do something with it, because these are the 3 things that we've changed. First, evangelize that connection between analytics and innovation. It's not easy. I've been there, I'm doing it, and it's tough. But the part is that the beauty of it is when it comes out, and you see this actually happening and working with your teams and your organization, you can see that magic really happen. This is really about that philosophy that data begets insights, and insights beget innovation. This is clearly a true statement, and we're experiencing this. The second tip I have for you is take advantage of AI, machine learning algorithms, the kind of deep learning stuff that's out there, even open source, to the point that you infuse these AI, infuse analytical capabilities throughout the organization to spark innovation. Data doesn't lie, as long as its data quality is approved, right? But the point here is that take advantage of these new technologies and cognitive technology and capability that's available so that you're actually able to derive these insights and make meaningful decisions. And the final tip I have for you is embrace customer insight and opinion. Whether it's through NPS surveys, whether you do this through an in-app experience, through nurturing the client, whatever your mechanism is, listen for that client feedback and insight. It doesn't stay the same at all. Just like an Uber ride, you don't have the same experience every time you go on an Uber ride, right? So it's the same thing. Listen for that feedback and continuously evolve and change based on those client interactive environments and feedback that you're receiving. So finally, in closing, I would say it has begun. And if you're seeing that it doesn't matter what stage you are in your digital journey or your digital transformation, this is a journey. There is no finish and line where we say, yeah, we're all done. It doesn't work like that. And that's a lesson we've learned. It's constant evolution. But definitely, this has begun. And I'm hoping that with some of the insights that I shared with you today, you're actually able to get through your digital transformation and that journey that you're on. And I'm happy to take questions offline after we're done. Thank you very much for your time.